Hey everybody, it's Nathaniel Avila reporting from Dallas County, and I'm here with, who am I here with?
Hi, it's Hanyu.
Hello! I got my Liquid Death here with me. So.
Wonderful.
What are we talking about today?
We are talking about the, what was it? Mysteries of
Isis, yes. So, what do you know about this entire thing right here?
That some of the rituals may have came from Egyptian things, but it's based from Roman Greek tradition. That's about it.
Okay. So let's go and we're going to deep dive into this whole thing. Where the Mysteries of Isis are actually a religious initiation rites performed in the cult of the goddess of Isis in the Greco-Roman world. Do you know what the goddess of Isis is?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay. Well, she's a major goddess in ancient Egyptian religion, whose worship spread throughout like the Greco-Roman world. So we're going to go into that. So let's talk about where it first came in. So Greco-Roman mysteries, right, were voluntary secret initiation rituals, and they were dedicated to a particular deity or group of deities, and used a variety of intense experiences such as nocturnal darkness, interrupted by bright light or loud music or noise, that induced a state of disorientation and an intense religious experience. So, what do you think about that?
Well, I mean, that's kind of interesting. You can have the right to say, yes, I want to go through the ritual. Consent, isn't it beautiful?
Would you like to, would you do that? Would you do the ritual?
I got to learn more about the ritual first.
Alright, so let's learn more about it. So, some of them involved cryptic symbols, right? Initiates were not supposed to discuss the details of what they experienced, and modern understanding of these rites is limited by this secrecy. So, the most prestigious mysteries of the Greek world were the Eleusinian initiations dedicated to the goddess Demeter, who is the Olympian goddess of the harvest and agriculture, and also which were performed in Eleusis, near Athens, from at least the 6th century BC, so to the end of the 4th century AD. So they centered on Demeter's search for her daughter Persephone. Eleusinian initiates passed into a dark hall known as the Telesterion, and were subjected to terrifying sights before entering the room brightly lit by fire. What do you think the terrifying sights were?
Men.
Men?
I'm joking. I don't know. It could be anything related to any type of mythology.
Yep. So there, the Hierophant, who presided over the ceremony, shouted a cryptic announcement that may have alluded to the birth of the god Plutos, and displayed objects that represented Demeter's power over fertility, such as a sheaf of wheat. So, would you still go through this initiation?
If it has to do with fertility, possibly not.
Oh, okay. Even though you have to go through like a dark hallway and seeing terrifying sights before the room is lightly lit.
Depends on the terrifying sight, but I work a haunted house for a living. I might be a scaredy cat, but I'm not that fully of a scaredy cat.
Okay. So, the mysteries of the god Dionysus, which were performed in many places across the Greek world, participants drank and danced in frenzied nocturnal celebrations. Now that I can get behind. Okay. So Dionysian celebrations were connected in some way with Orphism, which is a group of mystical beliefs about the nature of the afterlife. So we talked about Demeter and we talked about Dionysus, so let's go into Isis. So Isis was originally the goddess of the ancient Egyptian religion, which did not include Greek-style mysteries, although it did contain elements that resembled those in later Greek mysteries. So pharaohs underwent a concentration related to their coronation rites, or consecration related to the coronation rites, in which they were said to have close contact with the gods. So priests may also have undergone a consecration ceremony of some kind, connected with the specialized religious knowledge of training required by their positions. So ancient Egyptian funerary texts contain knowledge about the duat, or underworld, that was characterized as profoundly secret and was believed to allow deceased souls to reach a pleasant afterlife. So some Egyptologists, such as John... This guy is
I'm dying.
This guy has a very unfortunate last name. I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Assmann, but it's spelled Assmann. Jan Assmann. So, have suggested some funerary texts were also used in priestly consecration rituals. So, Assmann argues that initiation into the temples of the cults of Egypt anticipated prefigured the ultimate initiation into the mysteries of the realm of the dead. Now, other Egyptologists contest the idea that funerary texts were ever used in rituals by the living. So, that's the Egyptian thing. So let's talk about the Greek thing, right? So, an element of Greek mysteries that did not exist in Egypt was the opportunity for ordinary individuals to undergo initiation. So the most sacred rituals in Egyptian temples were performed by high-ranking priests out of public view, and festivals formed as the main opportunity of commoners to participate in formal ceremonies. So some of these festivals reenacted events from Egyptian mythology, notably the Khoiak festival in honor of Osiris, the god of the afterlife and the mythical husband of Isis, in which Osiris's mythological death, dismemberment, and restoration to life were played out in public view. Greek writers called these Egyptian rites mysteries. Ooh. Now Herodotus, a Greek historian writing in the 5th century BC, was the first to do so. Now, he used the term for the Khoiak festival, likening it to the mysteries of Dionysus, for which he was familiar, because both took place at night and involved a myth in which gods in question was dismembers. He further said that the Greek worship of Dionysus was influenced by the worship of Osiris in Egypt. So what do you think? What's your opinions on that?
I mean, that's kind of interesting, but a little bit of some of the different gods overlap depending on any of the mythologies. They just have different names.
Right.
But it sounds interesting as of so far.
Mm-hmm. So let's go into some more into this. So, like, Greek writers who came after Herodotus viewed Egypt and its priests as the source of all mystical wisdom. They claimed that many elements of Greek philosophy and culture, including their own mystery rites, came from Egypt. The classicist Walter Burckhardt and the Egyptologist Francisco Tiradredi both argue that there is a grain of truth in these claims, as the oldest Greek mysteries developed in the 7th and 6th centuries BC, at the same time that Greece was developing closer contacts with Egyptian culture. Now, the imagery of the afterlife found in those mysteries may have thus been influenced by that in Egyptian afterlife beliefs. So, there's that. So let's talk about the spread of the Isis cult. So Isis was one of the many non-Greek deities whose cults diffused beyond their homelands and became part of the Greek and Roman religion during the Hellenistic period. So when Greek people and culture spread to lands across the Mediterranean, and most of those same lands were conquered by the Roman Republic, under the influence of the Greco-Roman tradition, some of these cults, including that of Isis, developed their own mystery rites. Much of Isis's cults involved activities that were far more public than the mystery rites, such as the adoration of cult statues within her temples, or outdoor festivals such as the Novagium Isidis. Yet scholars often regard the mysteries as one of the most characteristic features of her cult. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, to be honest, you know, things when they get moved and it's just word of mouth and not necessarily written down can change a little bit. So it's interesting how things change a smidge from one thing to another.
Oh, yeah. So, let me see. Yeah, so the Isis cult developed its mysteries in response to the widespread belief that Greek mystery cults had originated with Isis and Osiris in Egypt. So the classicist Miguel John Verslois put it, for the Greeks, the image of Egypt as old and religious was so strong that they could not imagine Isis as a mystery goddess. So Isis devotees have adapted aspects of Egyptian ritual to fit its model of Eleusinian mysteries, perhaps incorporating Dionysian elements as well. So the end product would have seemed to the Greeks like an authentic Egyptian precursor to Greek mysteries. So many Greco-Roman sources claim that Isis herself devised these rites. So what do you think? Do you think she devised these rites herself?
Well, I mean, shouldn't your goddess be the one in charge of making the rules for what they want you to sing?
Wait, what? What do you mean?
I mean, heaven forbid that you have someone do your own rules and regulations over the religion and how you are perceived or worshipped.
Okay. Very interesting. So let's see if this, like, what the scholars say. So scholars disagree, though, on whether the mysteries developed before the time of the Roman Empire, as evidence about them from the Hellenistic period is ambiguous. Yet they could have emerged as far back as the early 3rd century BC, after the Greek Ptolemaic dynasty had taken control of Egypt. Now, the Ptolemies promoted the cult of the god Serapis, who incorporated traits of Osiris and the Greek deities like Dionysus and the underworld god Pluto. So Isis's cult was conjoined with that of Serapis. She too was reinterpreted to reassemble the Greek goddess, particularly Demeter, while retaining many of her Egyptian characteristics. The mysteries of Isis, modeled on those in Demeter's honor at Eleusis, could have developed at the same time. According to the Greek historian Plutarch and the Roman historian Tacitus, the man named Timotheus, a member of the Eumolpid family that oversaw the Eleusinian mysteries, helped establish Serapis as a patron god of the court of the Ptolemies. Now, the classicist Jamie Alvar suggests that Timotheus would have introduced elements of the Eleusinian mysteries into the worship of Isis at the same time. Another possibility is that the mysteries emerged in Greece itself, sometime after the Isis cult became established there, and it came into the direct contact with Demeter's rites and at Eleusis. So, what do you think? Where do you think, final thoughts about where the Isis cult came from? Did it come from Egypt or did it come from Greece?
To be honest, I think it probably came from both ways.
Both places?
It probably has a little bit of both of religions in it, because the Romans did go down to Egypt every often. I mean, it's the whole Antony and Cleopatra and the whole thing. So I would put it past it to have overlap.
Oh, okay. Definitely, yeah, I would say so as well. I think it did come from both places. So let's talk about where our sources are. So the evidence about the mysteries of Isis is sparse, although some information can be gleaned from passing mentions in inscription and literary texts. So one possible early indication is a stela from Thessalonica in the late 2nd century BC that connects Osiris with mystery rites. So other evidence of Isis's worship in Greece comes from Eratologies, texts in praise of the goddess. So in the wording of Eratologies from Maronea and Andros, both from the 1st century BC, say Isis gave sacred or hidden writings to initiates. The classicist Petra Pekkanen says that the Eratologies prove the mysteries of Isis existed by that time, but Jan and Bremer argues that they only connect Isis with the Eleusinian mysteries, not with the distinctive rites of her own. So the Roman poet Tibullus, also in the 1st century BC, refers to the vows of Isis taken by his mistress Delia, which may indicate that she was an initiate. So there's that. So inscriptions of the 2nd century AD use language such as the epithet Orgia in reference to Isis that suggests the mysteries of Isis were practiced nearby. Those inscriptions were found in cities such as Rome and the Brindisi in Italy. Kenkre in Greece, I don't know how to... Oh yeah. Kenkres in Greece and Tralles and Samos in Asia Minor. So Bremer argues that such inscriptions were only found in Italy and the Eastern Mediterranean, and that the mysteries were only practiced in those regions. Whereas temples of Isis found in every province of the empire. In Egypt itself, there were only 2 known texts, both in papyri from Oxyrhynchus, that may allude to the mysteries of Isis. So there it is. So what are you thinking so far?
I mean, it's a possibility. So, I mean, if it's supposed to be a secret ritual that's supposed to happen, you're not going to know who your members are unless you have code words in the first place.
So you think there's code words?
I mean, it is Greek and Roman and Latin. There's a lot of things you can say in Latin to give different meanings by putting the present, past, present, future tense to it.
It's also Egyptian as well.
In high school, so.
So, now one inscription from Brusa and Bithynia mentions priest of Isis named Manichetes, who furnished breads that were forbidden to the laymen, suggesting that they were connected in some way with the mysteries, although they may have served some other ritual function instead. Burkert suggested that those beds were involved in some kind of ritual relating to the marriage of Isis and Osiris. So, there's that. So some imagery found in art may refer to the mysteries. A cista, which is a type of cast basket in which ritual objects are stored in several Greek mystery cults, was also used in the cult of Isis. Now, Richard Vermeers, a classicist, argues that images of devotees of Isis carrying cistae indicate that they were initiates. Now, devotees of Isis were often portrayed wearing a manite or a manti with a large knot at the chest, borrowed from the iconography of Isis herself. And the art historian Elizabeth Walters suggests that this garment is a sign that the devotee was an initiate. The Tigran tomb at Qom el Shukafa near Alexandria explains a painting of a man carrying palm branches that the art historian Marjorie Vanet interpreted as an image of a new initiate emerging from the rites. So, what do you think about all this stuff, about all these arts supposedly portraying initiates of the Isis cult?
Well, I mean, isn't that the betrayal of the whole, it's supposed to be a mystery cult in the first place? But I mean, it wouldn't be fully a mystery if we're discussing it right now. So someone had to have loose lips, and Dionysus parties are, wild. You never know what could slip through there.
They're probably drinking a lot of wine because Dionysus was the god of wine. And
beer.
So yeah, so you mean that somebody said something and then somebody painted it?
I mean, when you're drunk, you don't know what you've said sometimes, especially if you go blackout drunk.
Mm-hmm.
So, might not have been said to say, hey, I'm in the secret society, but it could have been like, hey, I want you to paint me this picture, to do this thing, but don't really market what it is. I'll look at it later once it's done. And maybe someone found it around other light writings of the mystery.
Okay. So Hellenistic and Roman temples to Isis varied widely in form, and although some contained underground areas that have been proposed to have been sites of the mysteries were performed. So the evidence is inconclusive. So the agriculturalist William Y. Adams argued that the remains of the shrine of Kasir Abrim to the matriarchic kingdom outside the Roman Empire, but near the frontier of Roman Egypt, indicated that the mysteries of Isis were practiced there. So that's what that guy says. So, yeah.
I mean, that is what guys usually say.
That it was inconclusive?
Nothing's ever conclusive if it has nothing to do with them.
Oh, snap. So let's talk about this other description. So the only direct description of the mysteries of Isis came from the Golden Butt, lol, also known as the Metamorphosis, a comic novel from the late century AD by Roman author Apuleius. So the novel's protagonist is Lucius, a man who had been magically transformed into a donkey. In the 11th and last book of the novel, Lucius, after falling asleep at the beach of Cenchreae in Greece, wakes to the full moon. He prays to the moon using the names of several moon goddesses known in the Greco-Roman world, asking her to restore him to human form. Now, Isis appears in a vision before Lucius and declares herself the greatest of all goddesses. She tells him that a festival in her honor, the Novigium Isidis, is taking place nearby, and that the festival procession carries with it garlands of roses that will restore his human form if he eats them. After Lucius becomes human again, the high priest at the festival declares that Lucius has been saved from his misfortunes by the goddess, and that he will now be free of the inquisitiveness, the inquisitiveness and self-indulgence that drew him into many of the misadventures he has experienced. Lucius joins the local temple of Isis and becomes a devoted follower and eventually undergoes an initiation. So, what do you think about that story? About that novel story?
I mean, the stories are pretty good. I mean, that's where fan fictions come from. We see something we like, we write about it, we put it up. I mean, why they're stories.
Yeah, so you think that this entire thing with Lucius, it's just like fiction. You are 100% agree that it's fiction, it didn't actually happen.
No. Finish.
Why not?
No, I said it could have happened.
Oh, okay. What makes you think that it could have happened?
Well, I mean, like I said, with the whole thing, being able to actually write down stuff that should have been a mystery in the first place is interesting in and of itself.
Okay. So let's get into more context with this. So Lucius's apparently solemn devotion to the Isis cult in his book contrasts strongly with the comic misadventures that make up the rest of the novel. So scholars debate whether the account is intended to seriously represent Lucius's devotion to the goddess or whether it is ironic. So perhaps a satire of the Isis cult. So that's what scholars think, that it might be a satire, that he might not actually like them. So those who believe it is satirical point to the way that Lucius is pushed into undergo several initiations, each requiring a fee despite having little money. Although many scholars who have tried to analyze the mysteries based on the book have assumed it is dangerous. Now, the descriptions may be broadly accurate even if the book is satirical, so they're saying that the initiations might be real. So, Apuleius's description of the Isis cult and its mysteries generally fits with much of the outside evidence about them. The classicist Stephen Harrison says it shows detailed knowledge of Egyptian cult, whether or not Apuleius himself was in fact an initiate of the Isaac religion. So in another of his works, the Apologia, Apuleius claims to have undergone several initiations, although he does not mention the mysteries of Isis specifically. In writing the Metamorphosis, cults may have included many variety. He may have drawn on his own personal experience of the Isaac initiation or of other initiations he underwent. So even so, the detailed descriptions given in the Metamorphosis may be idealized rather than strictly accurate, and the Isis cults may have included many varieties of mystery rite. So the novel actually mentions 3 distinct initiation rites in 2 cities, although only the first is described in any detail. So what do you think? Is he actually saying what he actually experienced, or is he just making things up, or maybe he's embellishing, or maybe he's just trying to be funny?
I think it could be an embellishment a little bit.
Okay. So you think he actually did go through these rites with the cult of Isis, maybe, but it's just making it sound a lot bigger than it really is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or he's not given everything, so he just makes something up.
Okay. All right. So next week we'll talk about the actual rites, and we'll go into more detail about their significance and the significance in other traditions. So yeah, that's the Mysteries of Isis Part 1. So yeah, what is your entire opinion on the Mysteries of Isis so far before we wrap up?
It's intriguing as I've heard it. Let's see what the rituals might be and see if I would want to join the Mysteries of Isis next time.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, so I will talk to you and see you guys next time. I've been Nathaniel Avila.
And I'm Hanya.
And we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
All right.
Thank you for listening to A Vision Podcast, home of wacky talkies, The Kingdom, Evil Exists, and many more. Thank you for listening to Vision Podcast, home of wacky talkies, The Kingdom, Evil Exists, and many more. Thank you for listening to Vision Podcast, home of wacky talkies, The Kingdom, Evil Exists, and many more.